Good evening, everyone. And today is a very, very special day. Today is the first day of the interview series called Pleasure Conversations, facilitated by me. My name is Eugenia Olibertsi, and I'm an international pleasure and intimacy coach. I'm co-founder of Academy of Conscious Sexuality and online courses such as The Orgasmic Queen. And I am super excited to be here with you today. And the intentions of Pleasure Conversations is to bring consciousness to sexuality and pleasure and give people tools to practice safe, mind-blowing sex. Okay, and today I have the most incredible guest with me here, John Petz, and he's absolutely incredible practitioner, and he is a body guru in my experience, in my opinion. You know, he's just amazing. But I will let John to introduce himself.
Thank you, Eugenia. That is quite a delicious introduction, and my entire body is tingling with the intro. And I just want to start by saying hello in London. So for you, it's what time in the evening there in London right now?
It's 9 p.m.
It's 9 p.m. And here in Santa Monica, California, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So we're spanning a continent and an ocean.
Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you for inviting me to participate. I think you're incredible. I remember the first time I met you, and I knew right away that you're a very high vibration, sincere, wonderful energy being, and you really align your heart with your work, and you really create a safe space. There's really a beautiful space around you for growth and healing and transformation, and I love it, which is why I'm here with you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It is really an absolute honor to be here with you. And actually, thinking, just trying to figure out if actually the Facebook Live have worked or not.
Well, it looks like it is, because I see a little symbol on my screen that says live on Facebook.
Yeah, so let me just make sure that it works.
Sure.
And if not, we will adjust it, you know, just like in life, you know, going with the flow. And
this is the inaugural broadcast, so we're working out any little technicalities.
Yeah. So yeah, I actually see us live, which is awesome. So
wonderful.
Yeah, technology, gotta love it.
I love it. So we're using Zoom, and we're linking into Facebook Live. Very advanced.
Yes. It's some serious technology going on here. And I just want to express my gratitude to the technology and like our willingness to be here, like you mentioned, across the oceans in completely different continents, just being here together and talking about pleasure and intimacy and sexuality. And John, please tell our guests who you are and what you do, because you have such incredible background, you know, full of knowledge, full of wisdom. And I'm just afraid I don't gonna do justice if I'm gonna share.
Well, I appreciate that. So let me just say about me. I'm John Petz. I'm located here in Santa Monica, California.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on a journey into the body
Mm-hmm.
for probably about 15 years. You know, I, like a lot of people, I had done conventional therapy at different points, you know, and gotten counseling, and it was helpful, and it was nice to have support, but it didn't really move things within my body, and I didn't really release a lot. And then I was very fortunate. About 15 years ago, a dear friend of mine who is a psychotherapist said she'd done work with someone who did this somatic work, this body work.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I got more out of one session with this work than I did out of 26 years of therapy. Now, this was a therapist, so I thought, well, I got to check that out. So I had a session with a lovely woman, and sure enough, I had stuff come up from early childhood trauma that I didn't even know I had in me. And I was lucky because I instantly realized, oh, this work is real. There's something really going on here in connecting with the body differently than going through the mind and just talking about, my mom did this, my dad did that, So
Yeah.
by accessing directly into the body and sort of bypassing their sort of structured intellect in a way, I found that powerful things were happening, releases were happening, and that started my curiosity about the work itself. And over a period of years, I took workshops. I would be invited to participate in different workshops. And during that same time, I also began to do body work. I'm a writer. I've been writing for many years, but I found myself doing more and more body work, and I started doing a lot of body work when I was at Esalen up in Big Sur out here in California. And I began working, and I noticed that pretty much everybody I was working with were professional body workers with lots of experience. And I was getting beautiful results. People were having really wonderful healing experiences. And I was kind of late to realizing what my body could do. So I started to notice that there was really something going on here. And as I stepped more into using the body, knowing how to do body work, for example, where you let go of your mind or your agenda and just really begin to listen in to somebody else and to feel what's there, not as a thought, but as something that you're feeling. I began to have more and more clients in the body work. And then eventually, the woman who had first done the sessions with me 15 years ago in the somatic work that I do, which is Somatic Release Technique, is what we call it. She kept saying to me, I think you'd be really good at this work. You should do the training. And I was like, no, I'm up to other things. But people kept coming into my life. A shaman showed up and became a close friend. And at first I was like, shaman, how affected, you call yourself a shaman. Well, I began to realize that this woman was indeed a shaman, and I don't use that word lightly. And she began to kind of lead me down the path of what healing work is and what it is to come into the body. So I did the training. It was approximately 2 years of training through various levels to learn how to do somatic release technique, which is what I practice now. And what that is working with people both in the chair, where we sit across from each other and kind of just begin to talk and feel moment to moment what we're noticing, what the client's noticing in their body, and begin to kind of follow those sensations because they really help to open up emotions. And then the other part of the work I do is on the table. It's not massage work. The client's fully dressed, but I'll hold certain points on the body, and those points will help continue the process of moving and releasing held trauma or connecting body and mind. And again, we might be working with a particular incident. There might be something. It could be anything from a rape, which I've worked with a number of those. It could be a car accident. It could be a moment that somebody broke up with you and you didn't see it coming, and the shock of it is still in your system. So anyway, all of this work around the body, coming into the body, has been not only an incredibly healing journey for me, because as you begin to release these things, you begin to become more and more present in your body. Your body is an incredible thing, and it has such a level of intuition and such an ability to feel instinctually what's going on around you, and it gets covered up because we're up in our heads and we're filled with a lot of stuff that wants to move. And once some of that begins to get dissipated, begins to release, this instrument comes to life. And the sensation is really of being more grounded, more present, noticing gut level feelings. Whereas before, you might not be noticing your instincts. You're kind of like, oh yeah, sure, I'll go along with that. I'll do that.
Yeah.
Sure. When your gut is telling you no, 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 but you don't hear it. You don't hear the message. Well, as you come into your body, you begin to connect to your natural wisdom, to the body's wisdom. So it's exciting work, and I've had my children at different points. Have brought them to do the work, and
Wow.
I've seen the major difference it's made for them when they've gone through some really challenging spots in their own lives. And yeah, so that's, I don't know, ask me something, but that's like a broad overview of how I came to the work and a little bit of what the work is about.
Mm, mm.
And I could go on for 2 hours, so I'm going to stop for a second.
But this is a good sign, when you can talk passionately about what you do and what you love. It's
Yeah.
like this all that matters, right?
Oh,
And I really love when you were saying that it's like we all mostly live in our heads, like disconnected from our body. It's like how often, like when I used to work in the corporate before, what was happening, I would like sometimes go to work, like I wake up in the morning and I'm getting dressed, and next thing I know, I'm at work. How did that happen? You
yeah.
know? And
You
like,
were gone.
yeah, right, right. And it's just like reality for so many right now. Like so many. Thankfully it's not my reality anymore.
There was an article on the front page of the New York Times. At least it's on right now. If anybody clicks on nytimes.com, there's an article on there right now today about more people are the ultra rich and the rich are acquiring more wealth and more possessions and more whatever than in many, many, many decades.
Mm-hmm.
Yet the level of happiness is way down. People are not in their embodied state. They're not in their joy. They're not in their pleasure centers. They're not connecting. So they're not getting it. They got a beautiful house. They got a beautiful car. They got a prestigious job, but
Yeah.
they're not alive in the pleasure of life.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me more about these pleasure centers.
Well, you're probably more versed in the pleasure centers than I am, but I can tell you about the connections and the gateway to. So because of the work that I do, because it's embodiment work, because it's about coming into the body, as you begin to become more present in your body, which, by the way, it's an organic, I want to say it's an organic process. Unlike some other types of work, it's not like you got to sit around and think certain ideas, like I am my body, or have some affirmation you say every day, I can feel things, whatever. It actually is as gentle as rain. I mean, some of the sessions can be powerful when something powerful needs to be released, but the transition is very smooth. It's very gentle. It's very natural. So you just begin to notice that you're feeling more, that you're sensing more, and the way that shows up in your life is, well, you're more present to all your senses. So whether it's being able to be present to something you're eating, and in the realm of sexuality, it's huge because you begin to notice the moment to moment information that's being shared body to body. So when you're with your lover, you're not so up in your head with this idea of you want to please them or whatever, and you're more in your body because it's safer to be in your body, because you've done some work that's allowed some of the things that make it uncomfortable to be in your body to clear, and you begin to feel more comfortable in there. and your intuition starts to work. And next thing you know, you're able to feel the rhythm of your partner's body. You're able to feel sensation moving through them. And again, it very naturally. It's not like, thing. And so you become more responsive. You
Yeah.
become, as some say, in resonance. So this deepening of your presence in your body begins to exponentially expand the level of pleasure
Yeah.
and the depth of the experience. So a lot of women, for example, that I know um, or have known, I don't want to call anybody out, but they might be in a relationship, for example, with a man who's a really nice guy, like a really good person, a quality person, a caring person. Um, Women in general tend to be more advanced in their connection to their bodies in general.
Mm-hmm.
They're allowed to feel more. They're encouraged to feel more.
Yes.
Men are encouraged to disengage, to shut it down. So what I've seen a lot is turned on women who have done some work and are really even coming more into their body, and then they have wonderful men in their life who who aren't feeling on that level, and the women can feel the disconnection.
Yes.
And so a man's intention can be there, his heart can be there, but because he's not fully in his body, the woman can feel that distance, that level of disconnection. And a lot of them feel unmet and undernourished in their intimate relationships because they're not getting that full level of presence
Yeah.
that comes when somebody's embodied.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what would you say is the easiest, like, and quickest way for the person to get in the body? To actually to allow themselves to feel, or like when they quote themselves is like on autopilot. Because it's like, for me, what used to happen, I would just like over the sudden wake up when I'm at work and I need to do something, or like I'm really thirsty, I'm like, oh, I'm at work. So what would be the quickest way to get in the body?
Well, doing the work, doing embodiment work is, I would recommend to anybody who is at all, and we'll come back to that. But as far as like just here you are, you're going through your daily life today. Um, I'm sure many people who might be watching or listening to this are familiar with the importance of breath,
Mm.
or have heard about the importance of breath. So, and that's for a good reason, because breath is a gateway. So, one of the simplest things that you can do is conscious breathing, and that is as simple as sitting still, taking a moment to get comfortable. And the briefest version would be just even 3 nice, deep, cleansing breaths. And sometimes it's great to think of a breath almost like a wave that comes in at the beach and rolls in and crests and then rolls back out. And if you can envision a breath that rolls all the way down below your navel, crests and then rolls back up. And maybe we could do that now. Just 3 really grounding breaths. Let's take 3 of those. Now, how's it over there in London?
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. You have such a calming vibration, you know, it's like so beautiful. I'm like, I was so like excited and like all in my like high sensation. And now I feel completely calm. And yeah,
Hmm.
and it's beautiful. And also
Yeah,
we have people tuning in from Ireland, from London. Yes, so shouts out to you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I can see from Gozo. We have got people from all over the world tuning in here, and
beautiful.
thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you so much.
Hello, everybody. Love to you wherever you are. So
Yes.
yeah, so that simple thing with just the three breaths, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, imagine if you were with your partner
Mm-hmm.
and you took a moment to just share three breaths like that
Mm,
before you began to touch.
yeah.
The degree of awareness in your touch has just gone,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
elevated significantly. And, there's an exercise that you know, and I know you know, which you could combine with the breath, and that is, holding your palm on each other's heart,
Mm,
looking into the eyes, each other's eyes,
mm,
and breathing together for a few moments.
mm,
Just, yeah. And while these things, might seem like the realm of the hippy dippy, tantric, whatever, the truth is it's just it's just getting into your body. It's connecting into your instinctive self, uh, and that's why it's so powerful. But yeah, so breath is a really, really good one. Another one, which we won't do now, but I will often do with my clients at the beginning of a session, is to just slowly come through the body. Like you get yourself seated comfortably, get your feet on the floor, ideally with no shoes, but ideally barefooted, but even if you have socks on, and you begin by just noticing the connection to the floor or the carpet and really bringing your awareness to the soles of your feet, and then gently moving up through the body, through your calves, and thighs, into your hips. And each step, you really notice what's there. Notice if there's anything that wants to relax, if there's anything that wants to let go.
mm,
Sometimes you'll notice a little sensation that was there in the background that you hadn't been aware of. And you just gradually move like that up through the body, pelvis, your lower back. If you're in a chair, you might be able to feel the support of the chair behind you, the texture of the cushion. Move up into the middle of your back, up between your shoulder blades, your shoulders. I'm going faster than we would normally, but just giving a sense of it into your upper arms, your forearm, and really notice your hands. And you come up into your neck, noticing any holding or anything that wants to relax there, to the base of your skull, into your jaw, place where a lot of us hold, a lot of tension can get held here, your cheeks, your forehead, and then ending with the crown of your head at the very top. And sometimes you can feel tingling there if you notice. There could be a light tingling sometimes. But that process, which if you do it at a really nice leisurely pace, can, maybe take 8 to 10 minutes
Mm.
of
Mm.
going through it.
Yeah, when you was saying all that, like when you was naming them parts of the body, I could actually feel that they like awakening, that they like expanding with every moment, like when you're calling on them. It's so beautiful. And can people do that themselves, like at
Oh,
home?
sure, sure. You just have to create the space for it
Mm-hmm.
and take the time.
Right.
Um, but whether you're about to make love or whether you're about to walk into a business meeting or whatever it is, it's a simple practice to come into your body, which connects you to your intuitive wisdom, which allows your instrument to come online. And I said that before, and I want to emphasize that again. Our bodies are phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
We barely know what our bodies can do. And anybody who's in science and medicine will tell you, as much as we're at the beginning of really learning what these instruments are capable of. So when we come into them, when we connect with them, we're opening up a level of intuitive abilities, perception, wisdom, yeah, and great sex.
Oh yes, absolutely. And I think we need intuition in our everyday life, like whether like sex is involved or not, and it's like making decisions, making like adventures, like connections. Who do we connect with? How do we connect? How do we interact with them? It's always great to have that intuition level. So I was actually remember myself Googling one time, how do I heighten my intuition? And this is the real thing, because it's like we learn, like I can speak for myself and the people that I work with, that um, we learn that we can't trust our intuition, that there has to be a strategy, there has to be a logic, no intuition. So
And you're right, and that's taught to a lot of us, both through organized groups and religions, and people would say, override what you feel, listen to what we're telling you.
yeah, exactly. Follow the carrot.
I know you feel terrible now, but you'll feel great when you die. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and again, not to slam any particular faith, but that encouragement to disconnect from your intuitive self is shared in a lot of places.
Yeah. So, John, tell me this. What is like the number one thing that people come to you? What is like the most like common thing people ask you, and what questions do they ask you? What is the number one thing that people come to you the most?
Well, that's an interesting question, because my first answer would be there is no number one thing. So, for instance, I've had a number of sessions in the last, where are we? Today's Thursday. So
Yes.
I've had a number of sessions this week, right? Every single one of them was dealing with a completely different landscape.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it had to do with levels of childhood rejection,
Mm-hmm.
um, being shunned, and the trauma around about just being a kid and being shunned by other kids, and the carried pain around that, to somebody who was molested and who had parts of their ability to feel into their body had shut down,
Mm-hmm.
um, to abandonment by a father, and the contraction that happened when they realized that they were abandoned. Um, if you just say the number one thing, the continuous thread is
Mm-hmm.
that something or things happen that cause the system to shut down, that
Mm.
cause a contraction.
Yeah.
And the way I like to, I think it sometimes is like we're going through life and things happen that are upsetting. If we're able to move that energy and it moves through us, then we experience trauma, but the trauma moves through us and it's not an ongoing problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's when it gets stuck, then it's called traumatization. Then you're actually dealing with something that traumatized you. So the common denominator is everyone has had in their life trauma.
Right.
Traumatization, the things that get stuck somewhere, is different for every person, and it can come in every form. Your boyfriend breaks up with you and you didn't see it coming. Whoa, that is a shock to the system.
Yeah.
And the system goes into a freeze.
Mm-hmm.
You go up in your head and you go numb, or actually what happens is you disassociate. And many people are familiar with disassociation. But what's happening is so intense emotionally that you literally, psychically, emotionally leave your body.
Wow.
You're not even there because the feeling is too intense. And
Wow.
that disassociating, so a lot of people who are listening right now, a common way you can tell you're disassociating is things get fuzzy.
Mm.
Things get kind of fuzzy. Like you're talking to somebody and all of a sudden it kind of gets fuzzy. You didn't remember the last moment or two of the conversation. You didn't hear what the person just said. It's not just always that you're distracted. It's that if it's an uncomfortable or a high sensation spot, you're literally leaving. And it's a protective mechanism that's
Mm-hmm.
wired into the system to keep us from overloading in certain circumstances. But what happens is, so the thing that was traumatic
Mm-hmm.
gets stuck there. And I'm just going to share with you one little example that happened with me. And I'll just say, because I was very lucky because I had a circumstance where I got to see how valid the somatic work was, like, early.
Sure.
I went to this session, like I said, I didn't know, I thought, well, this could be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even have anything particularly I was working on at the moment. I just was curious, like, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm laying there, and the woman working on me was holding these couple of points up at the base of the skull, and I'm just kind of relaxing, and she says, just relax, notice your body, and, like, if anything comes up, let me know. And I'm laying there, okay. I have my eyes closed, and in my imagination, or I don't know what, it's like I see an image of my younger brother's face, and he was like around 4 years old, I could tell, and it was like a leaf falling in the periphery, just flickering a little bit as it falls in the sun. It wasn't like a big image right in front of my face, right?
Mm-hmm.
I saw this so faintly that I thought, well, I'm not, that's barely there. And then I thought, well, she said, mention whatever comes up. So I mentioned, oh, I see my brother's face. And she said, oh, what's happening with your brother?
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, I just start screaming. Wah! My arms shoot out at the side of the table. I'm screaming, Timmy, Timmy, Timmy. Something is happening to my brother. He's falling and he's going to die. Something horrible is going to happen to him and he's going to die. And I could feel I'm the only one that can save him. Something horrible is going to happen and I can't reach him. And I'm screaming and crying. Now, this is like, I go from zero to this. And I should say to people, this is not typical. Everybody doesn't have this particular experience. I
Mm-hmm.
think it was just a blessing for me because I got to see that the work was real.
Yeah.
So I come out of this and I'm like, she said to me, so what was that about? And I
Mm-hmm.
said, I don't know. He was falling. Something was happening. I couldn't reach him. I didn't know what was going on. And only I could help him, but I didn't know. And I was mystified. So a week later, I was talking to my mom. And
Mm-hmm.
I said, hey, did anything ever happen, when I was around 5 and Tim was around 4, and he fell down something or something. And she said, no, nothing. And I said, what was, like, maybe a house was getting built in the neighborhood and he fell down into the basement or something. And she said, no. And then I was just trying to feel into it. And I don't know where this came from, but I just kind of went, I don't know, was there maybe anything like with a car or something like that? And she said, no. And then she said, wait a minute, there was. When you were around 5 and Tim was around 4, we were driving in my old Ford, and you two were in the back seat, and Tim didn't have his seatbelt on, and he was playing with the door handle, and the door popped open, and he fell out of the car.
Oh my gosh.
I know. That was it. That was it. My little brother, my only sibling at that point, we're driving down a major street, not like a little side street, and the door flies open and he goes flying out of the car, and I'm reaching for him and I can't get him.
Oh my God.
Now, I had no conscious memory of that.
Yeah.
I would never have said that that happened, but the shock of it was still in my body.
Yeah. And that wow.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, well, this is for real. Because, I take everything with a grain of salt. I mean, I'm open-minded, but I'm not willing to just get on any train and go, oh, yeah, this is cool. I'll try this. I'm more like, oh, we'll see. So luckily, I had that experience relatively early, so it helped my skeptical mind to understand that this is what really happens. Things happen that are a shock to us.
Yeah.
We go on with our life. We talking to our friends, we go to sleep, people say, shrug it off, we go on with our life. And we don't know, somewhere in there, that thing is not been released, and it's actually impacting our day-to-day life. It's impacting where we feel comfortable, where we don't feel comfortable, things we pull away from, relationships we're uncomfortable in. We just think it's, oh, that's just my personality, or that's just my nature. Yeah, a lot of it is, but there are these other influences. So anyway, it's cool work. And so when I work with clients, it's really with a range of different things that people are working with. And the one thing that everyone has in common is that as these things move, and it's really bringing movement into things that have gotten stuck, as they move, it opens space. People begin to feel more grounded, feel calmer in situations that used to trigger them. I had one client came to me a couple days after a session. She called me and she said, I was having an argument with my husband the day after our session, and she said, I found that I was able to stop the argument, tell him I needed space, leave the room, get grounded, and come back in and begin the conversation. She said, I've never been able to disengage.
Yeah.
And in my entire life, I've never had that ability. So the work we had done that day had created just enough shifting in that area where she could hear herself. Yeah, I'm actually feeling a lot of emotion right now myself, because it was like, wow. And it opened up a whole gateway for her to be able to remain in connection and know how to take care of herself by feeling her instincts.
Yeah, because we are so quick to react. It's like, phew, when actually it's like all we need is to slow down, take a deep breath. I think like this is one of the most common questions people ask me too. It's like, so, but how do I not like being violent back, or like being sharp back when people are attacking me and things like that? Because like in everyday life we come to confrontation on a regular basis, and how do you stay cool during that confrontation is so important. So the ability of just like take yourself out, couple breaths, you know, come to your center, it's like, okay, I can carry on now. I can.
Totally, totally. And I just had it happen to me 2 days ago. I had got together for coffee with an old friend of mine. Hadn't seen her in a long time. Was
Mhm.
looking forward to seeing her. We sat down. She said, "How have you been?" I think I said 3 sentences, and she snapped at me and said something, and I could feel my stomach just go, whoa, and I could feel the heat, and I could feel like, like fight or flight, right? Because she just like
Mm.
suddenly like attacked me. Turned out she was having a terrible day, and there was some horrible stuff going on, and she was worried about one of her children, and you know there was a lot going on there that I didn't know about. But
Mhm.
had I not been able to notice, it's like a getting hit with a ball, like somebody throws a ball like a baseball or whatever, or for you guys over there, a cricket ball. Ooh, and the ball's coming toward you, and it's like having the moment of noticing when it hits.
Mm.
It gives you just that little bit of extra time to kind of whoa and have a choice about how you might want to respond, as opposed to just being completely triggered and going into your reptilian brain and being just on automatic fight or flight.
Yeah.
It's cool
Wow.
stuff.
Yeah, I really love the slow motion thing. Ooh.
Yeah, yeah,
And then you have like actually the ability to bend yourself and let it pass or catch it and pass it back or like whatever that is.
exactly. It's the matrix with emotion.
Yeah. And and that is so real, so real.
Totally.
So John, right, if anyone have any questions, please ask them now. We would love to hear from you guys. And saying now is like, if you were to give, let's say, one piece of advice, is like one thing that you would love to leave people with in terms of how to create more connection in their life, how to be feel more, how to experience more sensation. It's like, what would be your favorite piece of advice that you think that everyone should experience that? And
Well, that's a tall order. Everybody's on their own, journey, and people come to different things at different times. So, I mean, pay attention to where you are and what's calling you. I'll just say as a general response, and this isn't directly responding to your thing, but it's like listen to what's calling you. Listen to the instinct in you that says, I want to explore that, or I want to, just being in your journey. Because if you continue to show up for it, it continues to open and unfold. I mean, I can just say in my life, by listening to the calling of the healing work, which was, I was a head writer for CEOs of very big multinational corporations and flying around the world doing all that stuff. And the thought of being a healer, well, what the hell is that? I mean, not that anything wrong with it, but it just didn't fit in my identity box as to what I thought I might do. But I had some prompts, and I began to listen and and then something started to slowly open up. And then I find myself doing work that I I love with a passion that I was never feeling that level. It didn't matter. I could be doing events in Las Vegas for 5,000 people in the audience and these huge multi-million-dollar productions, and I'm the head writer, and you think, oh, well, isn't that a big turn on? Well, on some levels it was fun, but not the level of nourishment, not the level of openness. So as far as people coming in, I guess it's slow down, slow it down. Find the ways to come into your body. And again, it's because it's connecting your whole instrument. We most people listening to this, I'm sure already know this because they're if they wouldn't be here if they weren't people who probably done some exploration. But a lot of the emphasis is on our mind and what we think, and when we sit and debate and we talk to our friends, but we're often bypassing the brilliance of the intuitive self and the body. So I would say if you want to be more alive, you want to have better relationships, you want to make better choices in your relationships. And by the way, that's a huge one right there. I know so many people who are in relationships that are not right for them, and they're getting the information. Their gut is telling them, it's knocking on the door going, this doesn't really feel right. But they're up here going, well, yeah, on the other hand, blah, blah. And they're not listening to the information they're getting, or they're checked out and they're not even receiving it at all. So whether it's better relationships, better sex, deeper level of presence, our bodies have not been fully understood as what an important part of, let's put it this way, if you're embodied. Everybody said we're spirit, we come into bodies. Well, this angel suit that you're wearing has incredible abilities and powers and things. And you don't even have to go all the way out into woo-woo land. You can just, even if you just expand a little bit in terms of what you're noticing and are present to, your quality of life is enhanced greatly. So I would say doing the breath, the breath that we did earlier, a simple thing is slowing down and breathing. Simple exercises like that, and do work. I mean, I do work here in Los Angeles with clients. I also do work with clients around the world who we use Zoom like we are today, or sometimes FaceTime, and the work that we do, like you and I. Well, you and I actually did a session one time together where we were working. That work is very powerful. So I would say seek out somatic work that is about noticing and coming into your body. And anybody wants to do some work, let me know. They can reach me at somaticwest@gmail.com. And I think you posted something on your thing, so that's my little.
We will post more information how people get in touch with you too. On the link on top of this video, because I think it's so important, the work that you're doing. And actually what you touched on just now, it's like being with the right person or with the wrong person. I feel like it's like a topic, a huge topic within itself. And it's like, but very quickly, perhaps you could like share with us, I don't know if it can be quickly, what would be the signs of being with the wrong person? And what would be, like, how do I recognize?
Okay, well, one of the most basic ones is that there's an ongoing feeling of uneasiness. Yeah. So like when we did earlier, we did the breath where we did the 3 breaths, right? And you noticed, and I noticed that we felt calmer and more relaxed. Well, that quality of calm is a key indicator that you're vibrating on a frequency with somebody that is a really good spot. It doesn't mean that you always agree about everything. It doesn't mean that there aren't disagreements or things that you both need to learn from, but there's a deeper resonance. There's an inner intuitive feeling of peace. Like some people would use the word home, that there's a sense of being at home in that vibration. And there's not a conflict around that. It's like there's a level of nourishment there, and you can actually feel it, and it's palpable. If on the other hand, you're with somebody and you're noticing that you keep wanting to get to that spot, but you're not, that there's this sense of a disturbance in the force, to use Star Wars or whatever, that there's this ongoing sense of unease. I mean, I remember going out with somebody, and lovely woman who became one of my best friends. But I kept noticing all of her wonderful qualities, and I loved her for so many wonderful reasons. But underneath it, there was this feeling of unease. And in the back of my mind, little things would pop up like, I don't really know how this is going to work, you know. But I kept ignoring it because I so loved all the things I loved about her that I really didn't want something to interrupt that.
Yeah.
And then she broke up. She was wiser than I was. And she said, let's just be friends. And lucky me, up on that, because that was actually the spot for us, was to be good friends.
And
yeah, but my point was just that there was the information I was getting, and it was the opposite of what it feels like. I'm in a really wonderful relationship and have been for quite a while, and in contrast, I can really feel, you know, because it took me a while. I mean, you know, you can read things, you can study things, you can have people tell you wonderful things, but coming into your body and beginning to have this instrument, this beautiful instrument available to you, and to be listening to it, that's the crown jewel.
And it's so beautiful what you said, that it's like you've been ignoring it. It's like it was there, but you was ignoring it, because it's like for so many people, in my experience, it's so much easier to ignore something that is not right than actually when you try to fix that, because it like opens up the whole new can of worms that you potentially like, oh my God, how can I deal with that, you know? But when in fact it always works out the best way. Like,
well, it does. And I think when you say that, the other thing I heard is, many of us, you know, would love to have a wonderful partner and have a wonderful relationship. And when we're in one that feels like it has the possibility to be one, it's really hard to let that go, because we're afraid. You know, I'm afraid to be alone again, afraid to be single again, afraid, you know, I'll never meet anybody, afraid I'll never find it. You know, there's all of these fears there. And that feeling and that fear of aloneness or loneliness will keep us inventing reasons to stay in relationships where our instincts and our gut are telling us this isn't the spot.
oh my gosh,
the spot.
so true. And it, unfortunately, it comes at the cost of our own happiness there.
Yeah. And then just fast forward 10 years, 20 years, whatever, and there you are. And most of us end up in situations like that, and it's not bad. There's love to be shared, but it's not going to be what you really desired.
Yeah, this is it. It's like, don't compromise on your desires. This is my truth, my advice, because from personal experience, I have been compromising on my desires all the time, like trying to fit in, trying to like be a good girlfriend. And unfortunately, it never worked. It's like in the end, I was ending up being lonely and alone and crushed and like giving up on things, you know, that actually was making me happy, because of the relationship that actually wasn't sustainable anyway. So yeah, I know all about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna just share one last thing on that, because it was really a pivotal thing for me, and I share it with anybody who might resonate for. I had some years ago been in a relationship, and then, you know, we broke up, and I was really going through the feeling of aloneness and loneliness. And I went out one day, and I went to a shopping area here by the beach in Santa Monica, and I was walking around, and it seemed like everybody was with somebody. Everybody, there were couples everywhere, and there were families everywhere, and I never felt so alone in my life. I mean, I was like literally like the poster boy for, I am alone. I feel lonely. And I sat down and I just looked at everybody and I thought, God, I felt so disconnected, so alone, so whatever. And I just kind of closed my eyes and I decided to meditate, which at that point I wasn't really an epic meditator, but I just kind of decided to kind of self-soothe. I was feeling really bad. And as a result of that, what I began to feel was a calming and a calming down, and I began to just gently sort of self-soothe. And when I opened my eyes, I looked around and I saw all these people, and I just had this deep awareness that I was really connected to every one of them. That there was this shared human field, this experience, and dogs are in it too, and cats and everybody else. But that this idea that I was alone was an idea, that it wasn't true. And coming to that core wound, coming to that fear, coming to that thought, and recognizing the ways in which love is showing up in your life in so many ways. Whether it's the lady at the cashier at the grocery store, at the checkout, whether it's a little kid walking by, whether it's a conversation with a friend. But when you come into the feeling of the abundance of love, then you're better able to not cling to the things that don't serve you.
This is so powerful, so powerful, because most of the time we become a victim to our aloneness and loneliness instead of actually going into that and feeling it and alchemizing it into connection that actually is there all along, but we just don't see it, don't feel it. So it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah. The alone is a lie of the mind. You're not alone.
This is beautiful.
Yeah.
And I feel this is like the